To our agenda, commissioners.
I have none.
Jean?
No, I have none.
No members? Fran?
Nothing except work session topics if you.
Okay. Well, we will talk about those at the end. Item 3 on our agenda is public speaks. Do we have anyone today that wishes to address us in public speaks? Yes, sir. If you could just talk right from your chair, that'd be fine. If you could just identify your name and
That'd be
address
fine.
and tell us what you'd like to talk about.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Bruce Nordman. I live at 1623 Logan Avenue Northwest in Canton. I'm here to speak about the concerns that we have for the county jail bed space. Now, just to give you a little bit of background, Bruce Brewer, who is the president of the Vassar Park Neighborhood Association, and I run a concealed carry class. I'm not here to promote the concealed carry class, but we go out into the neighborhoods with high crime. We just finished covering Short from 17th to 12th Street and all of the tributary streets east and west. Prior to that, we worked the area on 19th and Maple and this Sunday, and we do this early in the morning so that we don't have any difficulties with some of the people that we don't want to run into. We, between our classes, solicit and knock on and talk to about 400 residents between our classes, of which we've run 6. And there is and of course we're in the pizza parlors and drugstores and etc. But the consistent comment that comes from the citizens that we talk to is that they're very concerned about the crime, specifically in Canton, we're talking about, because I can only talk about Canton because that's where we do our solicitations, about the high crime rate. Now, last year, Commissioner Burnaby, you and Sheriff Swanson appeared at the invitation of the Canton City Council to talk about renewing the 0.5% sales tax so that we could then move from 200 bed spaces to 500 bed spaces. Being a member of the Vassar Park Neighborhood Association, you came and spoke to our group about the same issue. The City Council endorsed it, as did we, and through your diligent efforts, we got that 0.5% sales tax renewed on the basis that by December we were going to be 500 bed spaces in the jail. As we sit here this afternoon, we're at 400. Now, what's the impact of that? The impact is, and we're running, and we just saw in today's paper, concealed carry permits up, which has nothing to do with the jail, but it's an offshoot on the concerned citizens about safety of neighborhoods, and that's why we're out there to try to help the city and the county by making people safe. But on the tail end of that, while the citizens went forward and gave the county the sales tax to fill up the jail, we're still at 400. Now that impacts crime on the street because the judges have so many bed spaces that they can send people to, and we're 100 short. I talked to an officer who I'll leave unidentified about 3 weeks ago on a situation where he took an individual to the county jail, spent 2 hours of his time off the street to put him through the process at the county jail, only to find out that that very afternoon that individual was released because there was no space. It creates a problem for all of the residents of all the cities in Stark County, because we've got 100 individuals out there that judges can't put into the jail. If I was a police officer, I would be very frustrated by the fact that I'm trying to go out there and police the streets, and the citizens are talking about crime on the street, and there's 100 people that we can't put up there. So I'm here today to talk to you about the fact that we are highly concerned. We're now 3 months behind the schedule that we were promised, and the monies are coming in, and I'm asking you on the part of the city what you're going to do to get this resolved and what kind of time frame we're talking about to get these additional 100 bed spaces. Now, I know we've got an issue with a new sheriff, and one other question that I'm asking, because Sheriff Swanson was setting up a schedule where he was going to hire out of these funds deputies to work the road, and there was going to be separate individuals hired to be the guards at the facility. And it's my understanding that our current sheriff wants to put people in that are qualified both ways. Now, in my mind, to be a deputy patrolman on the road is a more difficult job, requiring a broader background, I would assume at a higher pay than guards. So I'm looking for a little direction from you as to how you're going to tackle this problem and when we're going to get these additional bed spaces for which we, the citizens, are paying for and are not getting our money's worth. So I rest my case.
Okay. I can give you a lot of answers. You know, I'm not prepared, not knowing that you're coming in today to discuss this, and I can take you back to my office and give you more specific answers.
I'd like that.
Janet can also help me because she's been here with me through the last 2 years. Richard a little bit less because he's the new guy. Grant, you know, unfortunately is another new guy, as we said today, since actually his first Wednesday meeting. But clearly, we adopted the sales tax in November of 2011. At that time, our major promise of that sales tax campaign was that we would bring the jail back up to full capacity. The sheriff in November or December of 2010, is that correct? Which was our first year in office, we
Yes,
actually
10.
laid off because of the anticipated budgetary issues that we saw coming into 2011. Laid off, I believe, 41 individuals. He was not able, of course, to hire them during the year 2011 because 2011 was the year that the old sales tax, which was a 0.25%, was going to end and in fact terminated. And we then did successfully pass the new sales tax, and that was our promise, and we still maintain that promise to today. And when we have discussions with other elected officials, when we discuss budgets, to include last year's budget, we tell them the first promise we made to the taxpayers and the one that we intend to keep is that promise to open the jail, because it affects everyone. The jail is the core function, the sheriff is the core function that affects whether you're a muni court judge, whether you're a citizen, whether you're a common pleas court judge, or whatever. So that was why that was the focus. We're working on, by the way, our 2013 budget, but as a result of working on that, we have some numbers that are here with me today. Just to give you an idea, in 2011, and this is when the sheriff laid off, his appropriations went down to $13.8 million. And the largest function of the sheriff is the jail. In 2012, and again, I don't have a 2012 column on this is what we discussed. I don't know if they can give me that number or not. But I think that his appropriation in 2012, so we passed the tax in 2011, November, and it's important also to remember that the tax, because of when it was passed, we didn't actually start receiving any proceeds from that tax until July of 2012. So for the first 6 months, really for the last 3 months of 2011, we had no sales tax. And because the old one expired, for the first 6 months of 2012, we had no sales tax. Despite that, and again, we did two things. I believe in 2011, we cut everybody's appropriations by about 15%. In 2012, we cut everybody's appropriations about 10 to 20%, 10 for the courts, 20% for the administrative offices. But we increased the sheriff in 2012 by approximately 15%. His appropriations, Rick, if you can find me that number, in 2012, so therefore they went from 13.8 in 2011. His appropriations went to 15.9, so we increased his appropriation by $2.1 million in 2012, and gave him that money for the purpose of rehiring generally the 41 people that he didn't have laid off. And let me ask for one other comment in my comments, and that would be, we commissioners are not the sheriff, we're not the judges, we're not the treasurer or the auditor. Our primary function, or one of our primary functions, is in approving contracts and in appropriating monies. So we do set the priorities with regard to the appropriation for the general fund monies and in the future with the sales tax. So we recognized that priority, and we appropriated them $2.1 million. The problem that the sheriff ran into, and he's been in here and made presentations to us, and this would be Sheriff Swanson, because he was still in office then, at the point in time when they went to hire the 41 people that they had laid off, almost all of them, I think 2/3 of them to 3/4 of them, had either found other jobs or just weren't interested in coming back into the same system that had such financial uncertainties associated with it that they didn't want to get back into this business, and they found other things to do. So he was essentially starting off with new hiring. He attempted, I think, and he made good faith hires through our knowledge, efforts through a variety of programs and so forth to hire. I don't know, Janet, sometimes your memory's better than mine. I think he was only able to hire probably approximately 20.
I was gonna say 15.
I'm saying 15 to 20, corrections and/or deputies that he needed to hire last year. So the hiring need continued into this year. But we gave him enough money to do so. He actually wasn't able to spend all the money we gave him, because we gave him enough money to hire 41 new people. Is that correct, Rick?
That's correct.
But he wasn't able to do so, so he actually returned a significant amount of money to the general fund for this year, so it became part of this year's carryover. In this year's budget, although it hasn't been announced yet, the sheriff has asked for 45, excuse me, I'm adding the two together, 45 new hires. And Sheriff Swanson made that initial request. Sheriff Meyer has been in to see us and essentially confirmed those numbers, although we fine-tuned those somewhat within the last week. So he's come to us and said, I need 45 new hires. And again, that is to get the jail back to him. And we are therefore going to be appropriating money for him this year in the range of, so he went from the 13 to the 15.9 to, this number is probably $17.9 million. So that's the appropriation that we're looking for him. So I think that all of us through the sheriff are doing what we're trying to do and trying to keep that promise. The difficulty has been in the recruitment and the hiring of the necessary corrections officers and deputies. He's come in and told us a lot of stories with regard to the, again, they've done a lot of advertising. I don't know how many groups that they've had in. But again, they end up with, out of a number of candidates, I don't know whether anybody has those specifics, and I might be able to find this for you. He ends up with just, 5 or 10 possible candidates out of a group of hiring. The standards, by the way, our jail has always been, of our sheriff, and we're proud of those, but it also makes it difficult to hire. There's always been very, very high standards with regard to hiring. I think the Blue Stump, we started the practice in that is no matter at what point in time in your life you may have had a drug offense, if you had a drug offense, you were going to become a corrections officer or a deputy. In today's world, there are so many individuals with drug offenses or other issues associated with it, or people that just come in and say that they have used drugs, that when you eliminate that pool, you have a very, very small pool of people. So they just had a hard time hiring. So we're appropriating the money. We're trying to keep the promise that we've given to people. We believe that we are going to fulfill that promise this year. I hope that we didn't promise that we would get that done by December of 2013. That may have been said on some occasions. On some occasions, I think that we understood it was probably going to go into 2012. I think on some occasions we began to learn throughout the year that it wasn't going to happen in 2012 because of the hiring side of it. So I don't think it's for a want of trying, it's for a want of an available pool of good candidates. The other thing the sheriff has learned and has discovered over the years, and that's he loses many corrections officers and or deputies to other higher paying police agencies in Stark County.
Can I make a couple of comments?
Sure, oh, absolutely.
When these initial promises were made to us as citizens to ask us to pass the sales tax, which we did. And your words are saying that this went into effect 9 months ago. We're sitting 9 months into this issue, and we don't have the results that were promised to us as citizens, that the jail would be fulfilled. Now, I'm hearing a lot of reasons why it's not done. When you ask the citizens to renew a sales tax in these very difficult economic times, the citizens stepped up and met their obligation. When they met your obligation, then that obligation became your obligation to fulfill that objective. We're 9 months from that time, and we still don't have that objective fulfilled. Now, we're out on the street knocking on doors to help citizens protect themselves with our CCW because there is a high concern on the streets that the citizens have stepped forward and done everything that has been asked of them, and for whatever reasons that are not acceptable to the citizens of this county, 9 months after the fact, that they stepped forward and gave you the sales tax renewal, you, the commissioners, which we hold responsible, because you oversee the jail, have not fulfilled the promise that's been made.
I'm out. You don't oversee the jail. You need to understand the peer level of elected officials, Bruce. County commissioners are only the appropriating authority. We are not the sheriff's boss. You, we, the voters, are the sheriff's boss. We don't oversee the jail. That is a function of the county sheriff as prescribed by the Ohio Revised Code.
Who
So
does
we
he-
have to make sure that we get everybody in the right silo.
Who does he
We
get paid
appro-
by?
The citizens of the county. We are not, no, sir, we are not his boss. We are not the sheriff's boss. We do not run the jail. We appropriate the money to the sheriff, to the coroner, to the clerk, to all those officials, and once they get the money, then we as citizens need to hold them accountable how they spend their dollars.
My response to you is, would you prefer the citizens march on a county jail, or would we prefer that you apply some pressure to get this done because you're appropriating the citizens' money? I'm asking for a solution. I'm coming to you to say, we have a problem here in the city. I'm approaching you since you proposed the tax, we gave it to you, and now you're telling us that you're not responsible. Then to whom do we talk?
Okay, let's stop a minute. She gave you a good answer. I, by the way, provided you an answer. I don't necessarily speak for all citizens. You certainly speak for yourself. We appreciate that. I would like you to come back next week, and we will ask the sheriff to come back next week and explain to you his recruitment process and all the other issues associated with it. And then you can listen to that, and you can accept it for fact, or you can believe you could do a better job yourself. I don't know what you might believe after you hear him, but let's bring the sheriff in, and he can make that presentation to you, because that's what you need to hear about, because this issue really isn't about a want of trying. It's not about not providing the money that the taxpayers are paying in, because you've heard what the numbers are. In fact, as we said, we appropriated them enough money that he actually returned monies because he couldn't spend it because he couldn't hire people. So I think that you need to hear that side of it, and then tell me whether you're satisfied or not.
I'm sure. I'm not looking to be disrespectful here, but I'm sure you can appreciate the passion that we're expressing as citizens with 400 respondents between our classes who are all concerned about the same issue. We are just looking about results, like when you made the proposition that you wanted the sales tax increased. You were looking for a solution, which the citizens gave you. We as citizens are looking for a solution also, and I'm more than happy to come back here next week, and I apologize because I've been to city council meetings. I've not been to a commission meeting before, but you'll see my face from time to time when there's areas that we're concerned about, and I apologize for not giving you what I was going to speak about before, because I wasn't aware of your procedures. But I just want you to understand the concern and the passion that we have, and I'm not looking to point fingers. I'm in the sales business. I make my commission by achieving results, and that's all we're looking to is to get the jail to capacity, and I'm trying to find out how to do it. So if I've ruffled a few feathers, I apologize for that. But I'm looking to get this city, which has for sale signs all over the place. And last night, the city council meetings, a woman got up and made a very dramatic speech that she was here going to college, but she can't wait to get out of the city because of the crime that's going on in her neighborhood. And I think this is emblematic of a lot of the feelings of the people in the city, and we're just trying in our own way to help you. We're not the enemy, we're on your side. We're trying to get this thing done so that we can get this jail to its capacity. We'll do it in any way that we possibly can. We just want to do it in the avenues that you can direct us to do it most effectively. I'm not looking to pick the jail. I got more important things to do. I'm just looking for results to get these 100 beds so that we can get these criminals off the street.
We welcome you to come back. We want you to come back. We want to be able to answer your questions. I think we've answered a lot of your questions, but I think you need to hear about the recruitment and hiring part of it. And I hope you understand that you have to, of course, hear what they're doing for recruitment and what they're trying to do to hire and so forth. And it's not necessarily Sheriff Swanson, it'll be somebody else that we'll bring in, because Sheriff Swanson isn't here anymore, but what he did in last year, some other of his chief deputies that were involved in that side of it. So we'll try to answer that part of it. But I also hope you don't think that as a citizen, by raising the capacity of that jail from 400 to 500 beds, and that's how many it holds, that that's going to solve the crime problem in Vassar Park or in the city of Canton. Because that extra 100 beds isn't going to do so. Canton doesn't get all 100 of those beds. You know, those are shared countywide. If Canton were to get 30 of those beds, by the way, I think that you would understand that those 30 beds aren't going to solve your crime problem. So there's a whole lot of other issues that you need to be looking at, but we will be glad to help you fully with this one.
We fully understand. We fully understand that, but 100 beds is a movement towards a partial solution of that affects the morale of the police department, that affects the morale of the citizens, and 500 beds is what was promised, and that's all I'm here for.
The other thing I want to hear from you, by the way, you told me you have a police officer friend, by the way, who brought somebody in 2 weeks ago, arrested him, and they wouldn't keep him, he was out there for 2 hours, wouldn't keep him because the jail was full. Get me the name of the case.
Well, I'll have to speak to the officer and see if he wants to do that.
You're asking for details, I'm asking for details,
Okay.
because we go back and check those kinds of things.
Okay.
Because again, if an individual, if the offense is serious enough, he is kept. And again, that's another misconception, is that people, serious offenders are being let loose. That's not how this works.
Right.
There's also a pretrial release program where this individual may have been released anyways, no matter whether the jail was at 600 bed capacity, which it can't be, but I'm saying, so there's other things to do, so I don't want to talk anecdotal, unidentified evidence, bring me that name so we can check.
Well, he's not the whole case here. That's
Okay.
that's a pimple on a pickle.
You-
The
you-
100
well, you let
beds
off-
is what
you
we're
let
talking
off of
about,
it.
not that incident.
And you let off of it, so I want the details on it.
Okay. I'll
That's
have to
fair.
speak to the officer and see if he wants to do that. But if I could, there's one question that you didn't answer.
Well, I just want to make a quick comment. I lived through this before. When I took office in 2003, the sales tax failed in 2002. We had to shut down Wednesday jail. We passed the sales tax, a 0.25% sales tax in the May of 2003. But when it's time to go ramp back up, after you lay these deputies off, and they've been through this before, a lot of them leave and go north because Summit County pays a lot more than Stark County does. Number two, it's fine. Being a corrections officer is not the easiest job in the world. Getting people that can pass a drug test and are qualified and want to become a corrections officer is a challenge. And it's not as easy to ramp up if you're ramping up various other departments. So that's been a challenge, but I think my fellow commissioners, they did a lot of sacrifice amongst other departments to appropriate the monies into the sheriff's budget to hire the people back. And for various reasons, he was unable to do that. But it wasn't commissioners, and I'm not laying blame on it anyway, but they did their job, and I know to get that funding back in 12, that there was a lot of other departments that had to sacrifice. So that's just my only comment. I've lived through it.
And there's just one other thing too, is that, you kind of refer to it's we, again, we are Stark County. I'm as concerned about this as you are. I have lived the life of a mayor in the city of Canton and understand that you cannot promise zero tolerance either. I mean, there are problems, and I want to see that jail open probably more than you do. We all do. But there are procedures that we have to follow. There are things that, and I'm not passing the blame to any other elected official, because we are all in this together, and the citizens included. Personally, I'm happy that you came today, because we never get anybody at public speaks. Maybe I'm going to be sorry I said that, but we don't. I mean, and that people are interested, and that there needs to be a step up in getting those deputies hired. But again, I'm not going to just hire a body to be there that does not follow the protocol of a good police officer or a corrections officer. And I don't make that call. I'm not the sheriff. So I agree with Commissioner Burnby. Let's bring the sheriff in. He deserves that right, because he's brand new. He's only been on the job for 3 weeks. So we got to give him his due.
I hear your point. My frustration is that this has been going on for 9 months. Now, if I was here 30 days after the sales tax was passed, I'd be way out of line. But I think 9 months is more than adequate for the sheriff to put a priority on this and get the job done. I'm here because I think that this is not acceptable to be saying that 9 months after the fact that the citizens gave you that tax, we're still sitting with the situation not resolved, and that's not acceptable. 9 months is 8 months, whatever it is. Don't hold my feet to the fire about how many days I'm counting. Call it 6 months if you want to call it. That's not acceptable.
Yeah. I mean, when the sales tax, I just asked Commissioner Burnaby that when we passed the sales tax, I think the bids were down to like 300.
That's great. Even lower than that, we're down to 200.
So in 9 months, we have done something. So
I'm not saying you haven't done something, but you haven't said what you're going to do.
Let's lead.
That's my point. And that's my concern. The other question, and I don't know if you can answer this, Councilman Burnaby, or Commissioner Burnaby, but I asked if there is a difference in the salary between the road patrol deputy sheriffs and the guards. And if you know that, can you tell me what it is?
This is difference, I can't tell you, I can look that up, but we can answer that for you next week. So
Okay, that's fine. And I again, not knowing your procedure, if I had known that you would have wanted to know in advance, I would have given you that courtesy. So I'm not coming in here sloughing off the courtesy. I just didn't know that you would want to know that ahead. But when I appear here next, and you'll see my face once in a while when I've got issues of concern, and I'm only talking about, I didn't grow up in this town. I grew up in the Detroit area and moved here from the Detroit suburbs 11 years ago. My girlfriend and I wear the red and black, fly the flag at all the McKinley games. And I played high school football for a school like Central Catholic in Detroit, and everybody that talks to me thinks that I grew up here, thinks that I played football in this city, because I have a passion for the city. I love this city. This is a great, great city with unrecognized potential, with all kinds of wonderful things to do, and I love it. And I travel 5.5 states, and everybody asks me, why do you live there? I said, I live here because it's a wonderful city. You can talk to people, and everybody is friendly, and the city is very cohesive. I love this city. what I love, I take a lot of passion for. And that's why I'm here. I'm not here as a complainer. I'm here because I want to help this city particularly, and ultimately the county, and this is the county seat, so that this becomes an area that people want to move to rather than move away from. And we do everything that we possibly can, working with neighborhood associations and Ridgewood Castle and all the rest of it, working with the police chief, to work with the crime in this area and to make this a desirable area to live in. I think this is a great place to live that can go nowhere but up. And I just want to do my little part to help you, not to be critical, but to get things to where we need to get them. So I'm here on a positive note, although it may be that I'm here talking about negative things. I'm here on a positive note because I think this county has a tremendous potential, particularly with what's going on with the fracking and the gas in the business. I think if we handle this right, this can go back to the days when this town was thriving in the 1920s, when it was one of the hot spots in the state of Ohio. And I see that as our potential. And that's why I'm here to do whatever I can to kind of nudge it along. So please take it that way.
We have public speaks, we welcome you, we beg people to come to public speaks.
Well, you won't have to meet.
We're glad you're here. Please come back next week,
Thank-
because we are going to arrange next week. You know, ideally, if we can, we'll have the sheriff come. If not, we'll have somebody else that can come and explain to you about the recruitment business. Because, again, we're telling you secondhand what we know and what we've been briefed on the recruitment issues, but I think that there are some very real and serious issues that you'll probably have your eyes open on with regard to the difficulty of filling law enforcement slots.
The
So
only...
it's something that you need to hear about, and we also welcome whatever you have to say, by the way, and just, we want to have a free give and take, by the way.
And I appreciate
And
that.
if you throw out the gauntlet on something, we may throw it back.
Okay, that's okay. I'm in the sales business. I hear no once in a while. Not too often, but I do hear it once in a while. But I will promise you that next Wednesday, we will fill this room with people that are concerned. I would only ask that if the sheriff cannot come, that he sends someone that can answer the questions, because there is a tendency sometimes when somebody doesn't want to answer the questions, they send somebody that doesn't know the answers so that they can just kind of slide by. I would ask you that whomever comes, that individual is prepared to answer the questions and not say, I don't know, and waste everybody's time. That's the caveat that I would throw to it. And we're going to fill the room not with people that are going to sit here and burn the house down, that are concerned and want to know, so that we can spread the word back to our community as to what's going on and the solutions. And I thank you so much for the opportunity to give me more than I get at the City Council, but I tailor within 3 minutes of the City Council for allowing me to express our concern. And thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and we'll see you at the same time next Wednesday. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.